Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Find Your Soul show this morning. It is Pip Coleman coming in to talk to you about all things finding your soul, and our topic for this month of May is truth. Telling the truth, being a truthful being. So last week we had a good chat about a bit of an introductory chat about telling the truth, and if you missed that video, then you can go back and have a look at that and in the feed, in the post feeds, or you can check out my podcast, listen to the audio, or you could go to YouTube, to my YouTube channel, and check it out there. So many options, I know. So good morning. I hope you're all doing well. Hi, Kerry. I'm just, if you do comment, I've got my computer here today so that I can see comments as they come up, because for some reason they're not coming up on my phone, but that's okay. So I hope you're all doing well. It's this is going to be an interesting topic to this little slant today on telling the truth is we're going to be talking about our shadow side. So I have a beautiful bringing in the light prayer to do to help us to bring in the light and be in a safe space while we share our shadow side or tell the truth about what's going on. And we're going to do some self-enquiry, and potentially you could take it into a journaling exercise. So if you have a piece of paper handy or an actual journal, that would be great, because I'm going to give you a few questions to journal on, to consider, and we'll do it as a sort of a mini meditation, just to sort of give you the idea of what the questions are. And you can then, if you want to, take it into a deeper inquiry and go into a journaling exercise after you get off the internet listening to me. So I hope you're doing well. Say hi from wherever you're coming in from, and I look forward to conversing with you this morning. I was thinking about what would be the best way to talk about being truthful with yourself. And I have so many wonderful books that I've read, so many wonderful references, teachings that I've had over the years. And this book by Kyle Gray called Light Warrior has been amazing. I don't know if you've seen it, and I've mentioned it before, but Kyle Gray, Light Warrior. He's a young Scottish guy who has come into the space of Hay House Publishing and the world to share ways to be a light warrior rather than a light worker. And he talks a lot about balance, about bringing preservation into your energy rather than talking about protection. He's all about coming back to that space of being empowered and strong and stepping into that space of helping others and helping yourself in a balanced way rather than just giving all the time. So I really love his perspective, and I talk about him and lots of other wonderful teachers when I do my coaching and my teaching as well. So if you haven't heard of Kyle, then check it out, Light Warrior. He's written some other books as well. Raise Your Vibration is another book of his, and he's just released a new book about Ascended Masters. So you might want to check that out. So what we're going to talk about today is bringing light to the shadow and being truthful, around that concept of being truthful and honouring exactly what's going on in your life. So the first thing that I want to do is a little bringing in the light prayer. So before we begin doing this, it's really important that you feel like you have that energy of a safe space, because whenever we bring up that energy or that conversation around being truthful, you can feel a little bit scared. You can feel a bit uncomfortable. So you'll feel less so if you bring in the light first. Bring in the light and then do your inquiry. So I'd like you to close your eyes, if you will indulge me. Closing the eyes, and we're going to do a little mini bringing in the light prayer. So close the eyes, take a few relaxing breaths, and just bringing yourself into the center. I can feel the tingling energy in my body already, that you are here with me, really connected. I can really feel you today. So thank you for being here and committing to looking at the truth. Another breath. It's okay if your heart is racing a little bit. And one more breath. Really settling into your chair, just grounding yourself here in this moment. Guardians of the four corners, Mother in the earth, Father in the sky, angels, ancestors, and warrior guides, thank you for bearing witness to this declaration of my spirit. I choose to drop all shields of defense and let the light in. Thank you for helping me illuminate anything I have hidden within the shadow. Thank you for helping me reclaim lost gifts, strengths, and aspects of my being. Into my vision now, I allow all that I need to know to be revealed. I am ready to see. And so it is. And take a nice deep breath. And let that sit with you for a moment. Into my vision now, I allow all that I need to know to be revealed. And so, how do we expose our own shadow to the light? How do we bring light to it? When you're ready, coming back into the room, you can open your eyes when you're ready. Sometimes just seeing that we have something that's buried deep in our shadow is all that you need to do. And at other times, we will have to be willing to embrace our shadow, to embrace everything that we've rejected in order to make ourselves whole. So this can obviously bring up some fears and maybe make you feel a little bit uncomfortable, but it's important to know that the space being created is actually a space to shine more brightly. So we're going to bring the light into this space and shine more brightly. And the best way to do that is to create a space for the shadow to have light on to it, is to work through meditation, and journaling is a really good way as well. So you come into that space, you maybe do that bringing in the light prayer, which I'll share with you. I'll put it into the comments for you, or you can obviously pick up a copy of Kyle Gray Light Warrior and you can see it in there. But it's important to do it in a safe space. So you can do it alone. You can do your shadow work by yourself, of course, if you prefer, or you might like to connect with a trusted friend, or perhaps you'd like to maybe reach out to one of the coaches or healers or therapists that are here in this community or in your community around you to help you work through this shadow inquiry. So because it's really nice to do that, and you could take it into ceremony, you could do a little ritual. It really helps to have that support around you of doing that so that you can feel safe in that space. So if you have any comments, please feel free to comment. I'm just, for some reason, not seeing any comments today, but hopefully you're there and you're enjoying. And I'll look back later and comment on your anything that you have, any questions that you have. So if you have got a piece of paper or you've got a journal nearby, we're going to look at some questions, and we're going to have a little chat about them, and then you can take them deeper on your own if you like. And I'll also write the questions in the comments as well later so that you can do that. So when you look at the questions, take some time to figure out which of them feel relevant to you. So not all of them are going to feel relevant to you. Be aware of that. You might want to move into meditation. You might want to, just sit in deep contemplation before you actually, and ponder them before you actually start writing. And through this process of self-inquiry, let your intention be to see anything that you need to see, and that there might be some surface stuff that comes up, especially if you've used the prayer, the light prayer. But know that this is a really exciting process, and that you can go through that process of self-discovery, and it can be fun. Oh, hey, Margie. Nice to see you. That's great. I wasn't sure if anyone was there. Sometimes people are just listening and they're not commenting. That's okay. So let's start with the questions, and we'll see what comes up. Feel free to comment if you want. So, where in my life do I pretend to be content when I'm not? And that's a good question. Where do we pretend that everything's okay? Everything's okay. And we pretend that we're content and that we're peaceful and we're happy, but we're really not. So if you've got a notepad, then you can make some notes. Just a few off the top of your head. Where are you pretending to be content? The next question is, and you feel free to write in the comments, is it if you want to share with the group, you're welcome to do that, or you can do this on your own. Next question, what conversations am I avoiding? That's an interesting one. I can think of a few conversations that I'm avoiding. We all have our shadow. We all have our shadow side. I know there's a few people in my family that I am avoiding having conversations with. And I'm saying to myself that the reason why I'm not having the conversation is because it would be better it's safer for me if I don't have the conversation. And that may be a truth that is actually, important. You might actually need to honour that sometimes it is safer for you to not have the conversation. Sometimes it's actually more healthy for you to let go of that situation and not have the conversation than it is to have it because perhaps it's unsafe for you to be in that space and have that conversation. So be mindful of that. Sometimes when we ask that question, it's like, I need, you don't want to look for drama. Do you know what I mean? But yes, family, Margie, is a big one. So sometimes we don't need to have the conversation to heal to heal the shadow. We just need to bring a light to the fact that we are avoiding it, and then have a conversation with someone, or write down why it is that we're avoiding that conversation. And it may be that when you write it down and go, I'm avoiding it because it's not safe, then that might actually be, and to me, that's an absolutely valid reason. And we also need to be truthful about it if we're avoiding the conversation because it's going to be uncomfortable. There's a difference between things being uncomfortable and working through things with somebody and actually putting yourself in danger. And I say danger in inverted commas, danger, because there are situations where it might actually be toxic for you to actually be in a space and have that conversation. But that's what this inquiry is all about. Next question. Oh, yeah, that resonates, Kerry. That's cool. Yeah. Yes, it might cause conflict, and I guess I'm talking about if there's a physical danger to you, like where if you bring up something, it might actually trigger someone to physically harm you. Conflict can be good in terms of working through things. Conflict is, sometimes we avoid conflict, and that's something that we need to look at as well. There are ways to do the conflict resolution in a loving way I'm talking about if you're actually physically in danger, like of somebody hurting you in that way. But there's still ways to work through it on your own. So yeah, being aware of that. Next question. What do I avoid remembering? That's an interesting one. What do I avoid remembering? What are you squashing down and not really looking at in terms of a memory that you know is there, sort of sits in the background? What are you avoiding remembering? That's an interesting one. And you can see how these questions might, you might need some support around these questions. So it's always a good idea to do this work, I think, with a coach or a therapist if you feel like you need that support. In terms of not remembering things, look, there's things that could be squashed from childhood, sort of hidden or you've pushed down from childhood, or even just, last year you might have things that you don't want to remember. And so it's important to look at what it is that we're avoiding remembering. And I mean the facts of it, not the story that you're telling yourself, because there's a difference between the story that we tell ourselves about a situation and the facts of the situation. If you get what I mean, give me a thumbs up if you understand what I'm talking about. You know how we make up a story about what happened and why it happened and all of the drama and the stuff around it, and then there's the actual facts of the situation. You broke up with this person, you didn't get along with each other anymore, you changed, whatever it was, and you left. Your job, you just weren't satisfied anymore with your job, and so you started making, having fights with your boss so that they would fire you, and then you left. So, yeah, it's definitely important to have a look at, that's the facts. And then the story around that is, this person said this, and, they didn't like me because of this, and, it's because I'm a bad person, and blah, blah, blah. That's the story. That's not the truth. That's a story that you've made up. Yes. Cool, Margie. So when you write a book, it definitely brings a lot of old memories to the surface. And it's really, I always say that process of writing my book was a really cathartic process. The memories that I had, the way that I wrote them in the book, I tried to write them as they actually happened, but it's when you're remembering things, sometimes it doesn't come out quite the same way, but it is very therapeutic. It makes you look at things in a different way, and that's why journaling is amazing. That's why, going to counselling is really great, because it gets you to look at and reframe what it was that happened and how you came through that experience and what you think and what you feel. It's important to look at that. And so, that makes sense. I like that that you've identified that there was a therapy that happened, because that's what happened with me too. And a lot of authors would say the same thing when they go through the process of writing a book. It's very, very therapeutic. Yeah, definitely. You when you have those moments of it being really intense, you do have to step away, not just from the laptop. You need to step away from the space. There were times when, I needed to go and actually take some time out. And, in fact, there was about 6 months there where I stopped writing altogether and let it just marinate and make sure that I was really sure of what I wanted to say. And I didn't even pick up the manuscript, didn't even open the laptop, didn't open the document, to give myself that space and time out. It's important when you're doing this sort of inquiry that you give yourself the space to process. So that makes a whole lot of sense. So the next question on the list is, what feedback are others giving me about my behaviour? Lots of walks on the beach. Yeah, that's awesome, Margie. Thank you, Kerry. That's lovely. So the next question is, what feedback are others giving me about my behaviour? Because here's the thing, if we're going to tell the truth, then we need to look at what is being reflected back to us from other people. So are the people around you saying to you things that are making you really get triggered? You know, what are they telling you about your behavior? Are they saying things to you that you feel like you don't understand why they're saying those things, or you're not sure where they're coming from? Like, what is the feedback that people are giving you about your behavior? Because that can give you an indication of some sort of underlying shadow that needs to be brought to light. So that's an interesting one, because when I was writing my book, the people, I asked certain people if they wanted to read the manuscript before I went to print. And, you know, many times I asked certain people if they wanted to read the manuscript. And there were some people in the book I said, you know, there's a story about you. It's not your real name, but there's a story. Would you like to read it? And some people said yes, they wanted to read it, just so that they knew what to expect. And other people said no. They were happy for me to do it and then read it when the book was finished. Some of those people might, you know, were really kind of, you know, intense about reading bits of, bits of the book, and other people were like really didn't care at all. And then they had some people had comments about that when they read the elements of the book. So yeah, yes, I understand, Margie, that family can be tricky. Particularly if your book is writing about family stuff, because you might be if you're writing about your experience of your growing up, then obviously there's going to be mention of the family, and that in itself is going to be, even if the person's not read what it is that you've written, they feel uneasy about opening up to the truth. Yeah. So it's really, doing something it can be polarizing in that, and in that you are saying your truth, you're sharing your truth, and the personal development that happens, that inquiry that happens behind the scenes while you're writing a book, or, you know, whatever it is that you're doing in terms of learning more about yourself. It doesn't have to be writing a book. It's important to know that you are sharing your truth, and how you remember things, you're allowed to have that. You are allowed to honor. It's really important to honor yourself when you are speaking your truth, because other people will have completely different memories potentially of the same situation, and that's okay too. You know, so what she's talking about, Kerry, is polarizing means that it pushes people to one end of yes, I agree with you, and the other end of the pole of no, I absolutely don't. So polarizing is the process that happens if somebody makes a statement or has an opinion, and it's polarizing. It means that there's people who are really, really for and really, really against. I hope that makes sense. So it's an interesting question to ask about. In the end, the most important thing is that you feel like you've been authentic, and that you are sharing your most honest self in terms of the way that you present the book, and that you're not doing it on purpose to hurt people's feelings or anything like that. It's really just important that you are standing in your authentic power with that. Yeah. Yep. I understand. It's some people don't want to go back and remember. Some people don't want to go back and look at that shadow side, and other people are, because they're not ready to do that yet. And it's really important for us to speak that truth, and it's great. You are being honest, and it's your story. So she doesn't have to read the book. you know? I always say to people, you know, when they say, oh, I don't like that television program, or they get really het up about Facebook, or they don't like a book or whatever, and I say, you don't have to read it. You don't have to read the book. You don't have to read the book. You don't have to watch the TV program. You could just not get involved with it at all. But that doesn't mean that it's easy. It's definitely not easy when somebody is struggling with your honesty. But it's about you living your life and living your truth, and them living their truth. And if their truth means not remembering the situation, then that's what they need to do. And hopefully you'll be able to move through that. So, yep. Look, and you know, there's people who probably won't read my book either. And I think that's one of the things that has been really clear for me too, is that I initially was hurt that people might not read the book, because I have been wanting to share my honest truth, and that I would like people to read it and understand me better and all those things. But in the end, it's not about other people. It's about us and our choices. So it's okay if other people don't read the book. It's okay if people don't like us, and it's okay if when we tell our truth, people get upset, because it's not about us. It's about them, and them not looking at their own stuff. So becoming more resilient around and being more in your power is really important. So a couple more questions for you. What gifts are others seeing in me that I haven't recognised? Now, that's an interesting one. So what gifts are others seeing in me that I haven't recognised? So isn't it interesting? Because some people will say to you, oh, you're so good at blah. You're really amazing at, being organised, or you're really amazing at clarifying my problem, or, you're so great at, listening. And you might not realise that you have these gifts. And so it's important to ask those questions about what people are seeing in you that you might not be seeing in yourself. Yes, Kerry, you'll have to catch up with Margie and have a look at her book when it comes out. It's not quite there yet, I don't think. It's not quite being printed yet. Next question is, what does my ego tell me that I'm not? What does my ego tell me I'm not? So those are the sorts of things that we say to ourselves, like, I'm not a good learner. I'm not a very good person. I'm not a good listener. I'm not a good sister. I'm not a good friend. I'm not... what are the things that your ego says you're not? And that's a really interesting question too, because remember, your ego is always going to come from that place of fear, whereas your inner self, your higher being, your true self, your soul, is always going to come from a place of love. So listening to what your ego is telling you that you are not will give you an indication of the fears that are coming up for you. What memories do I pretend that never happened? Similar to the what do I avoid remembering question. What strengths have I not been willing to see? Now that's a good question too. Like, what strengths? Very similar to the gifts, but what strengths do we have? Are you actually very resilient? Are you somebody who is willing to see the truth? Do you have a strength around being honest, being patient? Do you have virtues that you're actually not really honouring in yourself that would be really great if you did? So that's really cool to ask that question. What strengths have I not been willing to see? I think that's fantastic. Yes. That's awesome, Kerry. I love that. The next question is, what gifts have I held back from revealing or developing? So, there are lots of people who might say, or the ego might say, I'm not a creative person, like I can't, or I'm not a writer, or I'm not an artist, or I'm not a whatever. So the gifts that you've been held back, that you've been holding yourself back from developing, like your intuition or your your psychic abilities. There's lots of things that you might be holding back from developing, and that's something that's worth having a commentary on. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, good on you, Margie. That's awesome that you've done that, and that your daughter has recognised. Yeah, that's great, because other people will recognise things about ourselves that sometimes we forget. So yeah, I love it. It's fantastic. The last two questions are: what talents have I been embarrassed to share? And I love that he uses the word embarrassed, because maybe when we were kids, we were, really focused on, maybe we were really good at playing an instrument, or maybe we were really good at doing something, but then we were, told that, that was, we were too good for for anyone, and why are we doing that? And, maybe we've been told that when we did our writing, somebody said, oh, you think you're amazing, don't you? And so you hid your gifts because people maybe were mean, or maybe teachers told you that you weren't very good, or that you didn't do what they asked you to do. And so you've squashed or been embarrassed by the things that are actually talents that you have. And the last question is, what is it I really want to share with the world? What is it that I really want to share with the world? And that could be anything from making jewellery or art or something creative, or writing a book, or, all the way through to just being more authentic as a person, just being more of who you are, and not doing that tap dance that we talked about last week, the tap dance of pretending that you are something that you're not. So when the stuff comes up and you see, hear and feel the aspects of your hidden self being revealed, which is what these questions will do, know that your spiritual sight is developing and that you're getting more confident. And so when you write down, you need to work on and share anything that's been revealed with a close friend or a coach or a spiritual teacher. Make sure that you do actually take those steps forward, because once you've actually got into and uncovered the shadow side and given it light, then it's important to go out there and start inviting in the miracles. So the next step is to invite in a miracle, in terms of shifting and moving into that space of claiming those wonderful things, like what is it that you want to share in the world. I love that, Margie. There is always hope, even when things look very grim. Amazing. It's so important. Hope is a really important thing, and I love that that is what you want to share with people. And it's fabulous, because I presume that is your why that you've discovered, your legacy that you've discovered as you've been doing your coaching with Ocean Reef Publishing. That's fantastic. That's awesome. So I'm going to read you the miracle. We're a little bit over time, but I'm going to read you the miracle prayer, which is to finish off. Once you've done your shadow work, it's really important to invite in a miracle, because we want to make sure that we move into the space of opening ourselves up to a miracle. So if you'd like to close your eyes again, I'm going to read you the miracle prayer from Kyle Gray's book as well. I make way for miracles. And you're welcome to repeat after me if you wish. I make way for miracles. Where darkness once was, light now enters. I call back my power, my presence, and my love. Wherever you are, wherever I've left you, I call you back. If I've forgotten you or given you away, know that I cherish you now. Into my heart right now shall enter the strongest form of love I know. As the earth is my witness and the universe my guide, Today I move back to wholeness with the presence of angels holding me. And so it is. Take a breath. Come back into the room. I love that you found your tribe, Margie. Thank you so much for joining me, ladies and gents, and anyone who watches this video after this. I'll pop those questions into the comments so that you can reread them, journal on them, take this inquiry deeper. If you need any help with working on your shadow side, you could get in touch with me to book in a coaching session, or you could book in with one of our other wonderful coaches and healers and therapists and teachers that are in this wonderful community. And I look forward to seeing you next week when we talk more about truth, and we'll be talking about taking it to another level and really taking that inquiry to the next step. I look forward to talking to you then. See you very soon. Bye for now. Bye, ladies.